Rimworld, a game where you can be eaten alive by your pet rat, suffer mental breaks from eating too much raw meat, and watch everything you built burn to ashes in an instant because of a freak firestorm sent to you by a storyteller. If these seem like specific examples, it's because this all happens in this video. Now, I am a complete beginner at Rimworld, but I'm also a certified strategy gamer. So I want to see how many tries it takes me to get going on the hardest possible difficulty. This means that we're going to pick the Naked Brutality start, meaning we start with nothing but our balls flapping in the wind. On top of this, we're going to be using random. Rimworld has a storyteller mechanic which determines the random events you get. Cassandra Classic slowly ramps up the difficulty, allowing breathing room between events. Random will wait 5 minutes before setting your house on fire, before then sending in a plague of satanic rats to clear out survivors. If they seem like specific examples, it's because they happen in this video. To make life worse, we're also going to be playing on the hardest possible difficulty, which is the gaming equivalent of sticking your hand in a blender and hoping for the best. And finally, just because I really do hate myself apparently, all my locations and starting characters will be completely random as well. Meaning if we end up in a desert or have a starting character that refuses to engage in violence, not even to hunt for food, so be it. If that seems like a specific example, it's because it happens in this video. Allow me to introduce our first random character for the very first playthrough, because, spoilers, this 94-year-old dementia patient probably isn't going to be the one to carry this video. His name is Connor Beasley, and he has hearing loss in both ears, cataracts in both eyes, and actually has dementia. In terms of skills, anything learned over his lifetime was lost 30 years ago, aside from his passion for plants. And the mines, apparently. As you can see here, we begin naked and with literally nothing, and we will soon starve to death if we don't do something urgently. So it's not great when Connor wanders off to go cloud watching.
Where are you going? Where are you going? Hey, did you forget where you're going? Why are you... You're cloud watching? Don't cloud watch.
For those of you who don't know, in Rimworld we can give our characters orders. Sort of lists of chores to do, so to speak. These will be things like constructing things, chopping trees, harvesting people for their organs. Yes, you can do that. But if they want a break or want to eat or sleep, they'll go off and do that. Just something to bear in mind going forwards. When Connor had a very rare moment of lucidity, I got him to build a bed to sleep in a nearby structure, which solved one of a very long list of problems, like Connor being unhappy with the fact that he's nude, the prude. After a night's rest and looming starvation, I felt the situation was dire enough to send Connor out hunting. It's worth mentioning that at this point I didn't actually know enough about the game to build him a weapon. What did you expect? The video title is literally something like I played Rimworld for the first time. I get better over the course of this video. So Connor set out to take out an alpaca, which in hindsight was entirely too ambitious for a geriatric pensioner.
Oh, he got his ass beat by the alpaca.
At the very least, it answers the question of who would win in a fight, a 94-year-old blind and deaf dementia patient or a wild alpaca.
It's the alpaca.
But Connor isn't dead yet. No, that would be far too quick. Let's take a quick look at his injuries. By clicking on this health tab in the bottom left, we can take stock of what's actually hurting Connor. In this case, his right humerus is cracked and his spine is listed as bad. Also, he has bruises on both his left and right arms. So the problem here is that Connor can't walk but isn't actively dying of his injuries, which out of character is genuinely horrifying. But don't worry, by chance there are some travelers that are wandering by.
Red, Purple and Kogango, my saviors. Guys? Oh, really? You bastards. You just left Connor to die.
So all Connor can do now is wait for the end. In a weird twist, it turns out that utterly savaging Connor and rendering him unable to walk triggered a crisis of self in the alpaca as it self-tamed and became domesticated.
Alpaca self-tamed? What? Oh my god. Connor, please. He feels bad for you.
It then stayed with Connor up until the point he slowly died of starvation, resulting in our first game over. A truly perturbing start to the video, but a wonderful demonstration of both brutality of the game and the scale of the challenge I'm up against here. So why not like the video and subscribe in appreciation of Connor's sacrifice? I'll wait. But Stin won't, and he's up next. Stin is not only a young, ripe 45-year-old man, he also has a functioning brain, as well as working eyes and ears. He is highly skilled as a cook, but unfortunately is a gourmand as a result. Characters can get different traits which do different things. In this case, he is a fast learner, which is awesome, but he also has a trait that gives him 150% hunger rate, which is awful given our start. Despite this, I feel like our odds are infinitely better than the boomer start. This is helped by the fact that I figured out how to design a crafting spot and then create a bow. This means that Stin doesn't have to go toe-to-toe with the apex of the food chain, the mighty alpaca. After countless shots and chasing a single turkey all over the map, he eventually hit it, and then immediately walked away.
Where are you going? We need the meat. You didn't just do that for fun, did you? Oh, you're a sick bastard.
See, I hadn't yet figured out how to tell Stin to go butcher and prepare the animal, and it took me so long, I gave up and just sent him to bed. And by sent him to bed, I mean night fell and he got bored and went to bed, after telling him to build the bed, of course. But in a flash of brilliance, I created a stockpile zone and set it to allow corpses, and voila, Stin is now sleeping next to a dead turkey. So to recap, in day 1 we built a bed, a bow, and killed a turkey. Look, it doesn't sound that impressive, but compare it to the previous playthrough where day 1 consisted of having a leg broken to our alpaca and simply waiting for death, and we're doing pretty good. When Stin woke up, I finally figured out what a butcher's table was for, clues in the name, and got to building it. The way crafting and tasks work involving a table like this is you add builds, essentially instructions. In this case, to butcher one animal once. I mean, I've got 5 hours in this game, more than when you started this video, so still kind of guessing. Feel free to correct me in the comments, and I might look at it. To be clear, I did tell Stin to actually cook the meat on the campfire, but he decided he couldn't wait and ate raw turkey before cooking and eating the rest. Unfortunately, eating raw meat and generally having, well, no hope, resulted in a mental break. In this case, Stin is throwing a tantrum and smashing up everything he can see.
Oh, don't destroy that. You need that. Come on, man. Stin. No, that's your bed. Stin, you just destroyed. Don't destroy the fire. No, that's random bits of wood. Oh, don't destroy. Come on, man.
Characters in Rimworlds have needs, which you can see if you click the needs tab in the bottom left. So here we can see the different things affecting Stin. He, much like most of modern Gen Z, has extremely low expectations for life, so that's helping out quite a bit. Unlike Gen Z, however, he does have some optimism for the current situation, and he has cooked for himself, which he has a passion for. For those of you watching, a passion is something you like doing. I know many of you don't have hobbies or interests, and this might scare you. Unfortunately for Stin, his hope is balanced out by the fact that he's outside, eating raw meat, and in constant pain. So he'll go around breaking things until he's finished venting. Perhaps impressed by this manly display of emotional instability, a nearby rat has been self-tamed and is now lovingly known as Rat 1. I want you to look at this rat and care about him because he's as close to a companion as we're going to get and is essentially a main character in this video. During the tantrum, Stin ended up destroying his bed and so is sleeping outside in the rain, huddled next to Rat 1 for warmth. A touching display, if somewhat tainted by the fact that they could do the same thing but inside the house and not in the rain. So to sum up day 2, Stin built a house, then destroyed it, and made friends with a wet rodent. Again, still better than slowly starving to death as an alpaca tries to apologize for ending your life. So we're still on track. During day 3, Stin built a tailoring table, and we can start to begin making clothes. But clothes require leather, and leather requires death. So it's off hunting again, this time upgrading to deer. Things were coming along nicely at this point. We built a proper storehouse so everything doesn't get wet, and Stin even got a table and chair to eat his meals. Narratively, this means it's time for things to go wrong.
Oh my god! Flash storm! What the hell is a flash storm? Oh, that's all the wood. No. Oh, was it really just like next to us?
Still, it was far away and so I wasn't too worried about it.
Fire in your home area, it's okay. I'm gonna burn anything that matters to us.
So on the next day, I sent Stin off hunting deer again, only to immediately realize my mistake.
He's gotten a lot better. I mean, he's a good cook, which is nice, but you can't use that. Nice. I'm glad it's a fast learner. Oh, just ignore the fire. It's fine. No, it's not. It's not fine. It's not fine. Oh my god, everything's burning. Oh no. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is so bad. Oh my god. Oh my god, hurry. Put it out. Put it out. Put it out. Put it out. The rat. Save the rat. Oh no, the crops are burning.
That's right. I had a whole ass agricultural setup that I never mentioned because I knew this whole fire thing was coming and I couldn't bear to get your hopes up like mine were. The next few days were spent doing repairs, and would you look at that before and after. The lush, beautiful forests are completely gone, including the trees we use for cooking and building. Amidst the misery, we had a visitor. These people will wander through occasionally and offer to trade, which would be really useful, but we have nothing to trade with, as evidenced by our balls flapping in the wind because we don't even have any pants. Perhaps, out of pity, the trader left us a gift. So it's good to know that's the level in which we're at. It's at this point I feel I should introduce Dan. You might have seen him wandering around. Firstly, no, he's not part of our group. He is what is known as a wild man. He too is naked, meaning we have something of a movement starting here, but functionally Dan is an animal. We can tame him or hunt him. In this case, we are taming him because it might help to have another person out here. It gets lonely surviving and humans are social creatures. Dan might be wild now, but perhaps one day we'll even call him friend. Unfortunately, it appears Dan is now attacking... Unfortunately, it appears Dan has now begun attacking Rat 1. Unfortunately, it appears Dan has now begun attacking Rat 1 in order to eat him. Scrambling to react, I drafted Stin, which means I can give him direct commands to fight, and ordered him to attack Dan. Rat 1 was down in the fighting after, and I quote, trying to kick dirt into Dan's eyes and getting his front leg smashed. It's notable that he failed to kick dirt into Dan's eyes. I don't know what a rat would... I don't know how a rat would kick dirt into a man's eye, but anyway. Dan, confused as to why dinner has been interrupted by all-out violence, now turns to us for some kill or be killed action. Fortunately, we manage to overcome Dan, and subsequently forgive him by stomping on his head until he dies. The situation now, though, is dire. Rat 1 will die in 5 hours without treatment, and I, as a player, have no clue how to instruct my character to administer medical treatment.
Oh no! Rat 1! He's gone up cruel! Death in 5 hours! How do we save him? Save him!
Fortunately, Stin did this without my input, and set about fixing the cracked spine of Rat 1, before tending to his own wounds, which were a couple of bruises. From then on, it was back to normal, with a solar flare followed by a solar eclipse. Stin gathered up the food and replanted the crops. Truly, it seemed like the worst was behind us. Narratively, this is where things go wrong. The combination of injuries, lack of recreation, and a rotting corpse outside his door led Stin to snap into a berserk rage. In furious anger, he assaulted the first living creature he saw, a hare that had the misfortune of wandering nearby. After a brief but violent exchange, the hare lay stunned, but Stin wasn't done. I could only watch in horror as he chased Rat 1, who fled screaming into the bedroom away from Stin. Stin chased Rat 1, blind with rage, only to get absolutely destroyed by a 3-legged rat who is now 2-0 against humans. At this point, I thought Stin had ceased his rage, but upon closer inspection, I found that his neck, torso, right arm, left leg, left foot, and right second toe had all been bitten or scratched, and death was on its way. That's right, the self-tamed rat put an end to Stin, who slowly crawled into bed and then bled out 7 hours later.
Rat 1 killed him. He's dead. Damn. Okay, Rat 1's body count's up to 2. And I think he ate the other guy. Oh, okay, well, a little bit further than last time.
The second character story comes to an end bizarrely similar to that of the first. Allow me to introduce our third character. This is David, and as a child, he was raised in an organ farm. Yes, you heard that correctly. David, as a child, was raised to literally be slaughtered and as a result is incapable of violence owing to these things he saw. He's very good at social skills, something that is useless in a colony of 1. As we get into the game, you may notice that I've immediately created a farm and have David harvesting berries. The reason I'm doing this instead of collecting wood like in the other games is that David refuses to hunt. See, that incapable of violence thing extends to animals, meaning he cannot hunt, and so we're going full on vegan here. I sure hope no one comes to attack David because he'll be incapable of defending himself. Another shortcoming of David is that he's terrible at farming, as evidenced by the botched text. See, a low skill in Rimworld means you have a higher chance of botching things. Not sure how this man is failing at harvesting berries, but that's the kind of level we're working with here. Still, despite botching the construction more than succeeding, David finally got himself a room to sleep in. At this point, a wild man wandered in and proceeded to eat David's food.
Hey, yeah, you just ate my berries. Well, I can't do anything about it because my boy is non-violent, sorry. So, I mean...
Also, I have just realized off script that it's saying Wombat on screen for David's name, because that's his nickname, I think. I'm not going to be changing the script and saying Wombat for 10 minutes because I won't be able to keep a straight face, so I'm just going to stick with David. Anyway, Zach, the wild man, is here, and he's a concern if the last game is to be remembered correctly. Still, David is, again, incapable of violence, so there's not really much he could do about the situation. David began construction on a food storage space behind his house, and by all accounts, the vegan life is actually going well, but knock knock, who's there? It's the Pact of Lexigoro, and they're here to maim you and burn your stuff. Every so often in Rimworld, you'll hear this noise. What this noise means is that someone is coming to raid you. Usually you don't get them this early, but Randy is a dick, and so we have a problem. We do have one saving grace though. David is a coward, but he is willing to partake in passive violence. I've been spending the last month traveling in Vietnam, so my mind went immediately to one place, building a spike trap to maim any invading forces. If you perchance want to see vlogs of my travels and historical tidbits in Southeast Asia, be sure to join the Patreon and become a channel member for instant access. Shilling aside, it's worth noting that someone at this point crashes into our section of the map, but we'll rescue them later, don't worry. Bowl turns up and immediately destroys David's campfire. He then hears David's cries of fear and, like a hungry beast, charges towards the sound, destroying the door and rushing in, but then, snap. The spike trap of justice impales the Imperialist and leaves him wounded. Fortunately, this doesn't kill him, and so David takes a whack from the steel club. However, Bowl has taken some pretty severe damage to his arms and also his lungs, which will result in death in 12 hours. Despite this, he seems pretty intent on turning David into a state of non-being, leading to the strangest chase sequence ever, as a mortally wounded man chases after a coward. I'm now thinking that Bowl was begging David to kill him, but David ran from the consequences of his actions for 12 hours straight, not unlike you watching this video right now instead of doing something productive. Still, eventually, after unsuccessfully attempting to get Zach involved,
Zach, wake up! Wake up, Zach!
Bowl succumbed to his injuries, allowing us to take his medicine and weapon back home. Strictly speaking, he's not dead yet, but he will be soon, and David's not going to change that. Speaking of dead things, this is Amy. She crashed into our settlement earlier, and I did not do anything to rescue her. I forgot. She does, however, have clothes, which is something that we need. So David, practical little coward that he is going to be wearing those clothes from now on. Given that Zach, the wild man, was already eating our food, I decided to take the risk and go ahead and attempt to tame him, mainly because David, as a character, filled me with revulsion. Unfortunately, presumably in an attempt to relate to the viewer watching this video, the stress of potential social interaction with Zach sent David into a psychotic break. Once he'd snapped out of this, David cultivated the rice fields, and there was even a psychic smoothing, which is essentially propaganda that telepathically calms David down. It's a random event. Our only problem at this point was that my spike trap kept disappearing. I kept building them, but they'd just vanish. It was only when I saw Zach writhing in pain outside my front door that I realized what was happening. Zach, 3 times in a row, had triggered the spike trap, maiming himself in horrific fashion. I do not know what possesses a man to step on the same trap 3 times, and frankly, I think we should leave those demons where they are because I do not want to know. Still, now that Zach is unconscious and unable to enter into meaningful social dialogue, David can finally interact with him, meaning we can attempt to rescue him. Maybe even convincing him to join our tribe. I have managed to stop David from having any other mental breaks, and the secret to this is simple: drugs. We have ambrosia root growing nearby, which, when consumed, will increase David's mood, the only downside being he may get addicted. But that didn't stop doctors in the USA prescribing opioids, and it won't stop me either. What may stop me is a group of pirates from Maxim's Grenades, who have decided to politely inquire if David would like to try wearing his internal organs as a fashionable necklace. Fortunately, David now has a system to deal with such kind requests, as I immediately instructed him to build spike traps before running away, which he does just as Lucy arrives to rearrange his furniture. I like what you've done with the place, but what if instead of a bed, you had splinters? Lucy is probably asking, her passion for interior design overpowering her cracked spine, tibia, and punctured lung. Lucy does eventually succumb to her injuries, at which point David goes home and ingests a near-fatal dose of ambrosia, not even waking up when Zeus himself hurls a lightning bolt in an attempt to kill him. During this raid, the rice he had been growing had a blight that spread, making all of it ruined, and Zach, true to form, tried to rescue his 3-0 record against spike traps by picking a fight with another one. It was close, but he crawled off and died. The dude triggered 4 spike traps. How did he not die sooner? Like off script, this genuinely baffled me when I was watching it back. I couldn't understand where my spike traps were going. It was just this one guy throwing himself on them. What a legend. This does mean that so far 4 people have died in this region, giving it an 80% death rate. 100% if you're not vegan. Don't worry though, if you think that these numbers are bad, they're about to get worse, as David has thrown another curveball in the form of another raid. This time, the Cutaline Pact is wondering if they might relieve David of his suffering, and frankly, he's tempted. Still, the death of Zach has meant our spike traps are safe, and so... Fucking Zach. He died he got injured so many times with the stupid spike traps. Still, the death of Zach has meant our spike traps are safe, and so we're in a good place when Humps tries to enter the building. One problem is she has discovered ranged weaponry, which means she's a much larger threat. However, one small quirk of ranged weaponry is that it's less effective when you attempt to beat your opponent to death with it, something Humps learns when she triggers the second spike trap when trying to get close to David. Like all the others, she slowly bleeds out, bringing the death rate up to 90%. Her parting gift though was fire, as our humble settlement is burned to the ground, with David able to do little more than watch.
And everything I've ever built is on fire. Well, that's fun.
But he doesn't even do that, as all the death and destruction finally shatters this man's mind into a million pieces, turning him catatonic. In-game, he would recover in a couple of days, but unfortunately, in a couple of days, he's going to starve to death. So he is just going to sit here until he starves to death, which he eventually does. Surprisingly, David is our longest lasting character so far, able to struggle against all odds until repeated raids took him out. But you're not going to care about him much longer, because allow me to introduce Daniel Stone. Daniel was a child soldier that turned his life around and became a mechanical engineer. He loves crafting, construction, and shooting things, and his 0 in social is perfect for complete isolation. He's not without issues, like a gunshot wound to the eye, but frankly, this 20-year-old is our best chance yet. This, combined with the fact that I've now learned how to do things like not send our characters into fights against wild animals and to not try to befriend strange naked men, means we're in for a good run. Daniel gets off to a good start, building a shelter almost immediately. And by almost immediately I mean on day 2, because day 1 was spent harvesting and eating berries, because this guy gets hungry fast. I'm not exaggerating, I sent him to hunt a guinea pig and the guy just ate it on the spot. It's not a joke, he straight up ate a rodent without butchering it, fur and all. That's the kind of guy we're dealing with here.
Not gonna lie, I'm kind of scared of this man.
Not content with small game, Mr. Stone then goes after an ibex, and makes short work of it. Amazing what you can achieve when you're willing to get your hands dirty, David. And, once again, Daniel prefers a paleo diet, ripping meat direct from the carcass.
Why did he... I don't understand why they do that. There's a fire right there.
Checking on David's mood, despite the fact he's been eating raw food and corpses non-stop, he's still hungry. But he is quite comfortable, so there's that. The reason he's so hungry is because he's a gourmand, which means we need to keep him constantly stocked with food, else he's going to continue his diet of small rodents. This means a storage space, so we hurriedly plan the smallest box known to man and get cracking. So the cycle goes on for a couple of days. Progress with Daniel Stone was slow but steady. He was able to hunt, unlike David, he's not plagued by a wild man like Stin, and he's not a 94-year-old dementia patient. This meant we were actually surviving, with crops growing. A local boom rat noticed this and decided to join us. So that's a measure of success if I've ever seen one. For those curious, a boom rat is like a normal rat, only it explodes when it dies. For some reason. Given we have a new occupant, it felt high time to make a second structure. This one much larger to serve as a bedroom. Daniel completed the walls just in time, as Randy Random decided to throw a curveball in the way of man-hunting rats. As the name suggests, these rats are not fond of men, and given how wildlife has killed 50% of my chaps thus far, I decided to have some character progression and learn from my mistakes, and hide Daniel indoors. If they can't make eye contact with us, they won't kill us. Much like a wolf, or your stepdad. The rats haven't figured out how doors work, so provided nothing opens the doors, we'll be fine. Boom rat? Boom rat, no! For whatever reason, the boom rat decided to show the rats exactly where Daniel lay, sending them into a frenzy. See, they can't open the door, but they can sure as hell smash one down. However, boom rat 1 bravely stood at the opening and took the fight to the rats, managing to downrun with a scratch, with Daniel offering covering fire. Unfortunately, in the scuffle with the second, its right leg was almost torn clean off, leading Daniel to face a diseased rat all on his own. At which point Daniel Stone simply stomped on the rat, killing it almost immediately. But because it's a rat. It's nice to see that humans are able to go 2-1 with rats this video instead of 2-0. Still, we have a rather pressing issue. Remember that whole boom part of boom rat? Yeah, unfortunately this rat is going to decorate the interior with a healthy dose of fire if it dies. So it's a race against time as Daniel Stone attempts to save his fiery friend. Oh, we gotta tend to this. We gotta tend to him immediately. Dude, you gotta heal him. You gotta heal him, otherwise we're so dead. Death in 1 hour. Oh no! It's a countdown. 3, 2. Okay, we gotta go. We gotta get out. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Boom Rat. No. Okay. Well, I think that went well. With several near-death experiences under his belt, Daniel immediately went to bed, not even bothering to clean any of the viscera currently adorning his floor. And in true Daniel Stone fashion, the next day he wastes no time in carving up the remains for a meal. Time passes and Daniel begins to level skills such as mining, and things are going so well we can actually build a research bench. And I can finally tell you what this is because everyone died before we hit this point in previous playthroughs. Essentially, Rimworld has tech trees that can be researched to unlock more stuff, such as electricity generation and drugs. And speaking of things we haven't progressed enough to get yet, we actually have quests now. See, Rimworld will give you quests to do with certain rewards, including a message from a friendly AI from our past, which tells us about a downed ship that will get us off the planet. Basically the main story of Rimworld, and something you have to survive to be able to get. This is a fantastic sign of progression as we slowly build to amenities like a fueled stove instead of cooking on a campfire. Daniel Stone is actually happy. He's content, fulfilling his passions, and isn't in any danger, which just feels wrong. Fortunately, to show violence still exists in this world, a band of slavers turn up and engage in social fighting with each other, leaving a man dead. They also execute a hare. Jesus! We're a ways off of giving them anything that they want, but we've now got trade relations with a neighboring faction. So now Daniel's making progress in tech, has sustainable food from multiple sources, has established relations with a neighboring faction, and is happy. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've done it. Despite not having any experience whatsoever in this game, we have a viable save starting on the hardest difficulty with random everything. But before we celebrate, a moment of silence for those we lost along the way. If you want more of this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Otherwise, comment which run in this video you liked the best. Shout out my boy Connor. He tried his best for the limited time he was around.